So, alright, here we go. And it's a freestyle of people. We don't have no script. You understand? Welcome, Mr. Kenord Grant. How you doing, sir? You hear me clearly?
Yes, I'm hearing you clearly. And thanks for
Wonderful.
having me. And
Wonderful.
big up to all your viewers.
Yeah, man. Blessings, man. Manners and respect. Alright. So, we have to big up Splash DJ first of all, because I met this possibly him the Kadek, him the glue man. So
Yeah, man.
more you introduce yourself to the people, tell them a little bit about yourself and how you got started into representational politics.
All right. So my name is Kenord Grant. I'm a second term councillor for the Bridgeport Division. I am affiliated with the People's National Party. How I got involved in politics is kind of a weird story. I didn't grow up in a political family, so I don't have the privilege of saying my neighbors think they cut under PNP. Actually, what happened was when I was leaving sixth form at St. Jago, I became a little bit interested in politics at the after the 2022 general election, and I started
Oh,
doing my little research. Sorry, not 2022, 2002, the 2002
okay. What
general
was I about to
election.
say? Yeah.
I started doing a little research, and then I became particularly interested in the concept of democratic socialism. And
Okay.
it is from that I got hooked. So I went starting after the People's National Party instead of the People's National Party starting.
Very interesting. Okay. So that was 2002. So you're talking about over 10 years now.
20,
Was it
23 years.
20? No, 2002. Sorry. Oh, my bad. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
23
yeah.
years. So that's a while. So you've always been in the division that you're in, per se.
No, no.
Okay. Tell us about that.
I'm from Central St. Catherine actually. That's Babsy Grange constituency.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so the PNP was not visible at all.
In that
So
constituency, yeah.
right, right. At the time,
At the
actually,
time, right.
there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot more. The PNP have made a lot more impression on the communities since then.
Since then.
But yeah, so I left high school. Started after the YO. One of my friend, Ricardo Taz James, was particularly integral in recruiting me for the YO. But then my political godfather is really Horace Maggie Brown. He's
Maurice.
the past councillor for the Bridgeport division, the late councillor.
Okay.
And it's quite an interesting story. So what happened was when I was 12 years old, I won an oratorical competition to represent the district in St. Lucia from Jamaica. And Horace Magigrown was assigned to him and his wife was assigned to be my chaperone for that trip. So, as a young youth, I went, had fun, represented very well, and then came back home. Now, of course, I became interested in politics and all these things. No, I was at home watching the news one day, and I saw Maggie Brown on the television, and I was like, "Am I PNP?" So I got completely impressed, and then I saw his wife in the supermarket, I think, couple months after. And I said, I really like politics and I really want to get involved. Can you ask the husband to contact me? And she did. Now, if you know anything about Maggie Brown, Maggie Brown is an insurance man.
Right.
So, when he contacted me and came to visit me, Maggie Brown come to sell me insurance first.
Oh my god.
Yeah, man. Maggie
Wow.
Bro come to sell me insurance first.
Mm-mm.
So, we had to settle that transaction first.
Yeah, I'll get that out of the way. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, get that out of the way. And, I am particularly impressed by him, his personality, his character, his appreciation for people. And why so he had a vision for me that I didn't have for myself.
Right,
And he, after a couple of private conversations, he told me that he believes that I will be good for representational politics.
right.
And that's how I got recruited as the candidate. He, we had a decent transition.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I understudied him for a while. I managed his campaign for the
Yeah.
2012 for the 2012 local government election. A successful campaign, I must add.
Right.
And thereafter, he asked me to stay on his executive. And then 2 years after that, I became the chairman of the division. And then a year after that, the councillor candidate. So it was an awesome succession planning that he had,
Mm-hmm.
and he executed it very well. So it wasn't a case where I was slingshot. They never fling me in the division. I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
parachuted there. I got 4 full years, 4 full years to actually interact with the division, understand the people, campaign, and then when it was time for an election, it was it was very clear that the division would choose me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the picture that I have up right now with you and Mr. Dawes, I took that energy from the picture. It seems like you're somebody that is deeply integrated with the people. You're in the constituency. You seem like a councillor will probably know everybody name.
Well, I tell I tell people all the while that the number one skill set to be a successful politician is personality, and
Right.
you just have to learn it as you go along with it, because you have to understand people and recognize that the idea of being a politician is not for you to impose your personality, your idea, and your thoughts on the people, but it's just to reflect theirs.
So
So representation is
repeat that again.
exactly that.
Repeat that again. I think that is key. Repeat that again.
The concept of being a successful politician is really not to impose yourself, not to impose your ideology onto the people, but really to reflect theirs. So that's the whole idea of representation. Now, you have to make sure that you represent the people by echoing their concerns and not your own. So, as a popular adage goes, it's never for self, but for country. And matter of fact, it's not an adage. It was first said by JF Kennedy and repeated by Michael Manley. So
Mm.
we have to understand that it's to be a successful politician, it's never for self, but for country.
So would you say that your successor would be proud of you right now in terms of the way how you represent your constituency?
Well, personally, I hope he will be.
Mm.
I do my best. So my first campaign slogan was "Continued Progress with a Renewed Vision," just for people to understand that the Maggie Brown that they knew and loved, I have no intention to ever forget his legacy or his memory, and but to build on what he left, and that's exactly what I've been trying to do. In my whole demeanor, my presentation, I ensure that I never ever disappoint this great man.
Yeah, man. I hear the sincerity and the humility
No,
in
it
that.
is absolutely,
Yeah, man. I
absolutely.
see that. I can hear that. I can hear that. What are some of the? Cause you've been there a while. You've seen him and what he's been doing in the constituency. You have moved through different governments, whether it's JLP or PMP. What are some of the challenges? And the constituency is Bridgeport, right? Bridgeport division,
Yeah, Bridgeport
right?
Division. That's
So,
correct.
what are some of the challenges that are there in terms of, all right, we're here and we have not gotten to this point yet from that time till now. What are some of the challenges that the people want you to
All right. So
sort out?
first, let me first put it out there. I am not privileged to ever represent my division under the People's National Party. I came in 2016 after the People's National Party lost the election. And then
Okay.
again, yeah, so I don't have the privilege of having my party in government.
So with the next
uh,
election, that the PNP will be winning, you'll be
yeah,
privileged
man, that would
now.
be my first. That
So
would be my first.
yeah. What are some of the challenges that you
So the
seek to
challenges that
overcome?
I have now,
Mm-hmm.
the challenges that the division is facing. So I represent four communities, and they are Garvermead, Westmead, Westport, and Bridgeport. I won't give you everything, but let me just give you
The
the
main
number one
ones, yeah,
issues.
yeah.
Yeah, the
Mm-hmm.
number one issues for each community. Now, first, these communities are aged communities. So Garvermead having now the issue of their parkways, the blocks. So they're in a state of disrepair, complete disrepair. Now, whilst we have had different members of parliament doing some rehabilitation of the parks, there's the majority of the parks still need to be repaired. And then in some cases, some of them are repaired so long ago that we are now at the stage that they probably need to be redone. So that's the number one issue for the Garvey community. Now, in recent times, we see issues about land and land use popping up. But we, as a community, we met. I was privileged to be participant in that meeting, and we'll have a strategy moving forward. So let us challenge that first, and then we'll see how that issue with community land space works.
Right.
Now, we'll move to Westmead. Westmead, in the past couple of years, were experiencing the same issues, but they are now privileged to be the beneficiary of the NHD legacy project. So we are seeing where all the blocks in the Westmead community is being rehabilitated. But right now, even though they are having the benefit of that project, the issue that really going to challenge Westmead is the issue of flooding. Now, whenever we have significant rainfall,
Mm-hmm.
the the Westmead community have some very major issues when it come on to high rising water.
Right.
No, the drains are there. They work. It's just a capacity issue. So
Oh.
what we so what we're experiencing now is that whenever the rainfall is heavy
Mm-hmm.
and consistent,
Right.
the volume of water that the rainfall will carry, the drain capacity is too small to carry.
Mm.
So you will have the rise in flood waters as the number one issue that the Westmead community is afraid of.
Mm-hmm.
Now we'll move to Westport. Now Westport is a housing corporation, so they function more of a private entity, but nevertheless, they vote for their councillors, they vote for the
Right.
members of parliament that serve their country, so they should be beneficiary of the taxes that they pay. So
Right.
I don't ever neglect the Westport community and say you private, so you handle your own matter. No,
Mm-hmm.
whenever they call upon me as best as I can respond, I do. So
Right.
what's happening now in the Westport community is that the roads within the community need some rehabilitation. And the corporation is aged, so they are unable to raise the volume of money that they would need to rehabilitate their road space because they have to maintain what they already have.
Right.
Finally, now Bridgeport. Bridgeport now is the number one issue for Bridgeport is really sewer system and water supply. Now, whilst they might have water in the pipe regularly,
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes it is very low or none at all. And
Mm-mm.
then we have aging sewer systems there. So we'll have a consistent situation where the sewer drains will collapse underground, and
What?
then we will have sewer, yeah, man. So we'll have sewer surfacing up from time to time. Now, to fix that problem, no, you would just have to just bite the bullet and just do an overall rehabilitation of the sewer line.
Yes.
Whilst that would be a very expensive project, nevertheless, what we see now is this needs basis. So if a pipe collapse, then we'll go in and we'll repair. If a pipe collapse, we'll go in and repair. But what we don't appreciate as the bridge
You're cut off, Mr. Grant. I don't know what happened.
for
You
community,
cut off just now. Go
sometimes
back.
it's not an
You cut off a while
yeah,
ago.
man.
Go
So
back to what you don't
you
appreciate.
hearing me better?
Yeah, I'm hearing you now.
Yeah. So what is happening now in the with the sewer network is whenever a pipe collapse, then they will come in and they repair. If a pipe collapse, they come in and repair. All right, fine. That's cool. We'll try and deal with it. But we don't appreciate the length of time that we have to wait for the sewer network. Because ultimately, they are unable to flush. They are unable to allow the grey water to enter the sewer network, and they have to bear this situation for months at a time
Oh my
before the
God.
issue is remedied. Additionally, the pump station, we have seen a few rehabilitation taking place there. But oftentimes it goes on. And that's the number one issue with Bridgeport, the Bridgeport
Mm,
community. The sewer system is the main issue
that's
that
a
we're facing
big
here.
issue. That is a big
Hello?
issue. I said that's a big issue. You hear me? Oh Lord. I guess my audio went off. Something going on with this. Hello?
Yeah, man.
You hearing me now?
How about that?
Yeah, your signal went down. I'm saying that's a huge issue. The sewer system is a huge issue. Unable to flush the
It is.
toilets properly and stuff like that. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
Shout out to all the people watching. I'm sorry I'm late again, but I'm glad that we had the opportunity because that it's a flat area. Portmore is flat. You
Yeah,
understand? So with the flooding and a sewer issue could lead to a larger issue in terms of health.
yeah.
So that needs to be dealt with at the top of the
And
list.
I must tell you, I am particularly proud with the guys from NWC. As
Mm-hmm.
best as they can respond, they do. But what is really lacking is that they don't have the resources available to them at the
Mm,
time they need them to
mm,
execute the work. And that now is really where you move the responsibility from the agency, the executing agency, which is
mm-hmm.
NWC,
Right,
to central government and say, why you don't give the people them the tools and the resources that they need to execute the work?
right. Well, thank God the
Yeah.
PMP will be winning the next election and you guys can right that wrong. Because,
Well,
you know,
so yeah, thank God we will have the member of parliament that will echo these sentiments in parliament, whether
mm-hmm,
or not is his party in government or not. Because
mm-hmm.
ultimately his job is to echo the concerns of the people and
Right,
not to protect his political interests. And I
right.
see that right now in the candidate and his demeanor, how he presents himself, and
Mm-hmm.
already with this whole him cracking the whole case of the $31 million
Talk
waste
about it.
is yeah, it's certainly the kind of representation that Southeast and Catherine needs,
And
and that's really what
not
I am
just you,
championing.
we need it for Jamaica. We need that type of
Yeah,
representation for the people all around the country.
yeah, man, certainly, certainly. Is the
Because
new Pink Panther.
here's a deep investigation walking around with the little
A
thing
magnifying
yeah, the
glass.
magnifying glass I search for the clues to solve the case. I like that,
Yeah,
man.
man, yeah, man,
Big
yeah,
up
man.
Mr. Dr. Alfred Das, man. Man, I tell you, you guys are in
Yeah,
good.
man.
You guys will be good with a man like that representing, and then the team with you and the other gentlemen behind him. I see. It seems as if Portmore is very tightly knit in terms of the communication as a team with you guys. I don't really expect any issues like how you see on the other side where we're having problems some bangarang with each other with the candidates and stuff like that in constituencies. I don't really foresee that happening in Portmore, and that is good for the people of Portmore and Jamaica
Yeah.
because at this point right now, we really need unity in Jamaica to propel us to the next level where we need to go.
No, certainly.
You know,
Certainly, and I think the management of the party got it right. We
yeah.
saw in 2016 where close to the election there was a whole heap of internal dispute in
Mhm.
terms of candidate selection. So we settled that very early this time around.
Yeah.
So if nobody don't realize it yet, let me put it out there. The PNP is far advanced in its preparation for the next general election than the government is. And that is really what is causing the delay for the announcement. Them not
Yes.
ready.
They're not ready.
And they are facing, they are looking down the pipeline at a defeat that they don't want to reach. But what they don't realize is that time is running out on them, and there's no longer this whole element of surprise. This
Yes.
idea of surprising you with a date of election.
Like they
Brother, we
used.
don't know by when it have to be.
Mhm.
They,
Mhm. Like
you
what they
only have
did.
a couple more months to go.
Like what they did in the pandemic. In the middle
Yeah,
of a pandemic, Dr. Dawes even talked
yeah.
about that how it jeopardized, the health of the people, and there was a spike in COVID. So
No,
yeah.
but look at it now to show you how it's really about their own political interest. The hypocritical excuse that they gave for delaying the local government election was the pandemic. But they announced the general election 1 year ahead of its anniversary.
I know they can't even do it 1 month or 3 months
I like
before.
I look there now,
Oh
I know
my
I would
God.
not have no pandemic. What the reason now? What they want is a war? They want a war?
Hey, I was about to ask you about that, because you heard the utterances of Malahoo Fort, right? And then we see this breakout. I think in spike in COVID or some flu or something happening. It's some very weird times we're living in. It's some of the utterances from them. You have to look at them side. You're like, wait a minute, why would you even say that?
Yeah.
Why would you even talk about if a war was to break out? Oh, it's gonna take 12 months. It's like,
Well, the constitution is very clear now, and they can try and avoid the election all they want.
mm-hmm,
We believe in the democratic process, and we already subscribe to the whole idea of adult suffrage. No, by understanding that, you can utilize the constitution to your own benefit. Fine, you will have another 30 days after after the anniversary of parliament.
mm-hmm,
Now, what they should also say, note that they didn't say, is that if they should move towards that, then all the members of parliament, the posts will have been completely abandoned. There is no longer a parliament. There is only a cabinet. And if that is the case, then the 63 constituencies will be without representation. Now, tell me that is really where they are trying to carry our country, our government. And if that is how far they want to go, it is very clear that these people is really about the business of politics and not the business of governance.
of governance and representing the people in the right way. I absolutely
Yeah.
agree. Absolutely agree. What about education? How much schools is in the area in Bridgeport?
In Bridgeport, we have everybody right up to. Only thing we don't have is a university. So we
Okay.
have Bridgeport Basic, which, as you know, basic school functions as a private entity
Mm-hmm.
with a subsidy from the government.
Mm-hmm.
Bridgeport Infant, which is a full government sponsored institution. Primary and Bridgeport High School. So would I love if them would I give a Bridgeport University, so you know for left.
Hey, one thing me know now, when me notice with Portmore is very ambitious. Very
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
ambitious.
yeah.
You guys are, what's the word I'm looking for? Very patriotic in terms of your area and your zone. You want everything for you there. If you can get, you're not
Nice.
really sickling. It's like a
Yeah.
energy of democracy in that area that is very refreshing. You understand?
That is absolutely true. But The reason why we are like that because we just reflect what the people are, and the demography of persons that exist in Portmore, they demand more.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't believe me, look at Greater Portmore. Remember when Greater Portmore was a community where them say matches box. Now the
Yes.
houses in Greater Portmore valuing 36 million.
Yes.
They are at par with all of these new gated community
Right.
development with respect to the values.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is where you recognize that the people that exist within this space is a bunch of ambitious people who recognize their value and their self worth. And if what I have said is to be true, then I can only reflect that. And that is why we are proud of the municipality and we are very much ambitious as to what we can achieve through it.
So I feel like I want to move to Portmore. I have family there. You know. Feel like I want to
Then
move to
come on.
Portmore. Trust me. Me feel confident say yo, me I gonna get good representation, right? As long
Yes.
as you guys are there. I feel very confident that. Trust me. I
Yeah,
really,
man.
really do. What about crime? You know, what about crime in the area? Because crime is always an issue, you know. You know what I mean? What about crime?
All right. So I'll speak specifically to the Bridgeport division.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I must big up the men in blue. Um,
Mm-hmm.
in Bridgeport, we don't really experience a lot of what you call violent crimes.
Right.
We don't have in recent times. We haven't had a lot of shootings.
Mm.
No murders actually.
That's great.
Um, yeah, we don't have that. But what
Mm-hmm.
we do experience is car theft, house break-ins, and
Mm.
yeah,
Mm.
and robbery. Now, of course, we do recognize that because of the community that exists there, the criminals will recognize these people of as owners of wealth,
Right.
and then they will become the prey and the
Mm-hmm.
victim. So that's really what we have. That's the issue that we have here, and what we're really trying to do is really have all the communities organize themselves to see how we can support the police officers in executing their job so that they can feel safe too. Um, we and right throughout the entire division, we see where the community have done so. They have organized WhatsApp groups, they have been alerting each other if
Right.
they see any suspicious activities. The police officers are also members of these groups, so they respond to us
Oh,
in
that's wonderful.
a timely manner.
That's
Yeah,
wonderful. So there's a community police and a real interaction between the people of Bridgeport and the
that's
officers.
correct.
That
That's
is
correct.
wonderful.
And one of the communities actually, Garvey Mead, they have pretty much done fundraising and so on, and put up cameras within the community and
I was
allow the police to access these cameras
I was
for
just about to ask about that in terms of them implementing something just like that on a widespread
yeah, so
basis. Yeah.
so that exists in one of my communities, and
Mm-hmm.
I am particularly proud that I could have been able to lend
Facilitate that.
assistance through
Mm-hmm.
resources
Mm-hmm.
to allow them to have that done.
Right.
So yeah,
Wonderful. All right. So in recent times, the political arena has been turned upside down. I mean, from the fertilizer to the drill, and now to who owns this company. Um, I know it's a legal situation, but what are your thoughts about the regularity in which these types of alleged scandals is popping up under this government?
I just remember back in the days. I don't remember which MP said it that them ban scandal, but never ban the scandal. Them ban scandal back, but never the bag of scandal. No, we from they came into government was the first thing they went with this $800 million bushing
Mm-hmm.
in preparation of the local government election, and then thereafter the Petrocham, and then
Mm.
it just kept going, kept going, kept going, kept going. But what we have never seen is anybody nobody really facing the repercussion. Nobody got the consequences and the risk. So what they have done as a government is normalize these kind of behaviors. And now scandals seem to normalize corruption. Let me say
Mm-hmm.
it
Yeah,
better.
yeah, yeah.
What they have done is normalize corruption. And then it just seems as if that, hey, it's okay if you do. The
Mm.
PNP has always been the one to blow the whistle. Has always been the one to say, hey, no, this not done good. This don't look right.
Mm-hmm.
And while all of this is taking place, we have a minister that is boasting,
My God.
showing off his clocks and all of these things and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know if you can boast while your colleagues and some people say that he might know of a lot of these corruption or even be participants in these corruption scandals.
Mm-hmm.
But how can we have a situation like this? And never ever has he done anything to reassure us that this is a man who will stand up against corruption
Right.
and ensure that there's proper utilization of the public purse.
All right. I'm glad you touched on that. As if you were the leader of the Jamaica Labour Party or any party for that matter in government, and a situation like the questioning of the drill came a year ago, what would have been your response to that situation initially?
The first the first thing I will do is ask for the procurement documents.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing I'll do. I will ask for the procurement documents, and I'm not going to do it in secret. The public needs to know that I did that.
Mm-hmm.
I will make sure that the appropriate investigation is done. I will supervise that. And
Mm.
then when I do that, it is a clear indication to the people that if anybody else is wrong, at least they can rely and trust me. What is
Ah.
also very clear is that the cabinet will recognize that I will not stand up for any foolishness.
Right.
So if you intend to do foolishness, also intend to get caught.
Separating yourself and drawing the line. If anybody here is
Yeah,
corrupt, just know this
just
leader right
know.
here not
And
working with
they,
it. Mm.
and that is really how, because really and truly, what I'm going to tell you this. Coming into politics, one of the things I've learned from my division and secretary is that people feel the energy of the leader. So if you want people to believe in you and believe in what you say, you have to be the same way, and then they will flow.
Not just talk, but
Now,
also the
there,
action.
yeah, the proof is always in the tasting of the pudding.
Talk
Now,
true.
the thing that we realize, is that nobody's ever questioning the integrity of Mark Golding. Nobody's ever wondering if this man, um, you can rely on his behavior as a government minister,
Mm-hmm.
because he has been a government minister before. And as a government minister, he conducted himself very well with high level of integrity and without any form of scandal. As
Right.
a matter of fact, when he was the government minister of justice, we have never seen the passing of so many government bills.
True man. True man.
In addition to that, why we can trust this man with our money is because he has owned companies that already been holding people's money. And at no point in time in any of their operations can we question
Right.
these companies. As a matter of fact, these companies have performed very well, certainly better than SSL,
Oh my God. Talk about it.
certainly better than SSL, to the point where international companies recognize the credibility of these men, acquire their resources, acquire their entities, and then they move on to start another, and people still been relying on them. No, isn't that proven integrity?
Yes. I mean, did you remember when the PMP held press conference. It was with Damian Crawford and Julian Robinson, and nationwide
Mm,
question Mark Golding about Finsac. You remember that moment?
mm.
What was your your response or ideas when you saw that? What did you think about that situation? Them raising the question the way they did, because you're here now showing demonstrating that there hasn't been really any questions about the man integrity. It's quite the
Let me put
opposite.
it here this way.
Mm-hmm.
Let me put it here this way. I don't know where the JLP come from with all of these arguments and so forth. It must in their own school. When
Mm-hmm.
I was at university, and they taught us about FinSAC, because of course this is something that happened there, and it's something it's always going to be a reference point that you draw on. What the intellects understood about FinSAC is that it was a necessary and relevant move by the government. What we have had after FinSac is that what we learned from FinSac is how to properly manage our macroeconomy.
Right.
What we have set up is how to really manage these deposit taking institutions. Jamaica is now stronger because of FinSac, the implementation of FinSac and the policies that we impose as a government thereafter.
Right.
Now, what the JLP is doing is that every time there is an election, they try and call upon something that is about 3 decades old.
Hmm.
Now, I am asking a lot of these guys that you hear talking about FinSac, if they weren't in basic school and primary school at the time, why we don't talk about current issues,
Right.
which is SSL?
Mm-hmm.
Why we don't talk about current issues, which is the abuse of public resources like the $31 million? No, that is what I am interested about.
Right.
These 18 years that I'm talking about is more than 18 years ago, and the government, the JLP in government, it has been in government longer than 18 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are you making reference to?
Right.
What I want to talk about is my future. We have learned from our past.
Mm-hmm.
FinSac was a mistake of private sector that the government had to correct.
Yeah.
And that is what happened then. And that is the message that we should take and move forward. Now, don't come telling me about things about 18 years ago. Because certainly, if you can come up with ideas of future, you have to call upon private sector mistakes of the past. Then certainly, I will tell you that you are wit bankrupt.
Hmm. This new this new report that came out about 2023 poverty um, levels of 8.8. I mean, we're in 2025. You know, if it is that is the case, are we at that level based on what you see in your own constituency or in Jamaica, just generally speaking on the ground? Do you really think that we are doing better off where the poverty level is concerned, as they have said?
Right. Let me tell you this. You see, I learned this some time ago, you know. You see, percentages and rates is
Mm-hmm.
all about numerators and denominators.
Mm-hmm.
How you come about numerators and denominators? You just set different parameters. No, they will tell you that unemployment is determined by if you're actively seeking a job.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So if you now work and don't send out a resume, means that you're not counted.
Yeah, that's crazy.
No. What they have also done is look at persons who hustle and record them as employed. So
What?
the man who is now wiping your windshield and all of these things, he is not seeking an employment, and he's actively gainfully employed according to the whole thing. No, I don't know if that is particularly so, because if you are supposed to be considered as employed, that means you should be contributing to the tax net, isn't that so?
Right.
But nevertheless,
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Nevertheless, this is how things are. No, I won't particularly speak directly about the information because I haven't read that report. The
Okay,
only thing
gotcha.
I can tell you
Hmm.
is that China some years ago they declared that they have zero poverty. You believe them?
No, I don't.
Well, that is exactly how I look at this thing too.
In terms of your division though, the Bridgeport division, like, is there any ideal area for like a marketplace, for its own marketplace?
Absolutely no.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely no. There's absolutely no space in the Bridgeport division to accommodate that.
Mm,
And the reason for that is how the community is built.
right.
We're a built environment, and during that period, we weren't considered as a commercial area or place for commercial activities.
Mm-hmm.
As the communities grow over time, one or two people might convert their household space into just a community shop space and so on. Um, Bridgeport, however, have a small commercial district, but the primary purpose of that area is really to house a public dental clinic, the post office, and the police station. So it's really government service entities that are there. Other than that, we don't have any land space that can be utilized for that.
Mm. Um, in terms of the next general election, would you
Mhm.
say that the people in your constituency, in the majority, is ready? They are excited and ready to go out and vote um, for the People's National Party in the next election.
All right. Let me present a little bit of facts, a little bit of history,
Mm-hmm.
and a little bit of um, the concept around my responses. First thing I'm going to tell you is that in the 2020 general election, that was certainly not a true reflection of the participation of the constituency.
Okay.
Why is that so? It's
Mm-hmm.
the lowest voter turnout in all its time.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first we have seen the winner, sorry, in that general election getting
Mm-hmm.
less votes than the previous loser.
Wow.
No. What is also very clear is that the voter turnout was even lower than a local government election number. What is
That's
also
surprising.
very Yeah, what is also very clear is that in 2024, the local government elections, every winning councillor got more votes than the winning member of parliament. And usually, statistics will tell you that the local government is expecting a 30% voter turnout, while a general election is expecting anywhere north of 50%. But we all winning PNP councillors got more votes than the winning JLP councillors. So that is already an indication as to what direction we should expect the people to vote. What
Right.
is also very true is that the only division that the JLP won, he got less than his member of parliament. So
Mm.
it is a clear indication that whilst the PNP voting stock is getting higher, the GLP voting stock is getting
Look,
smaller.
smaller. Right.
So if the numbers are to suggest the trend and the behaviors, then certainly we are looking for a high voter turnout for the People's National Party. I want to carry a little bit further now.
Mm-hmm.
That what we have recognized is that the Member of Parliament took 4 years for his honeymoon. We have not seen any substantial amount of work that would have warranted him to be re-elected in 2025.
What you
What
say?
we are seeing now, yeah, it took 4 years for his honeymoon. You know, him never expect to win him win, say him a go celebrate. And as them say him a go hard, what time thing go home,
So you're saying
right?
that he's
Him
not been, he's just not been doing any form of representation?
No, we are completely unimpressed. As a
My
matter of fact,
God.
I want to carry it even further. It took 4 years for his honeymoon, and all of a sudden now we are seeing the presence of a member of parliament. No, we didn't want to have bad roads.
Him a move like Norman done up a St. Mary.
Well, everybody who a look down, well, it look like done time done. That's how me see
I
it.
saw me see.
No,
So me
no,
see.
what is really happening now in Southeast St. Catherine is that for the past 4 years we have experienced bad roads. For the past 4 years we have experienced little to absolutely no representation for this man. And on the eve of an election, we are now seeing the Reach and the Spark project finally reaching and finally sparking.
Parking.
Now we are not particularly impressed.
Right.
We have with this 2025, do not try to trick us with 1980 politics. We have seen right through you, and we have recognized that time come for a change, and the time come now for proper representation. The final thing I want to say: for the past 4 years, this man is saying him can't patch a road because a local government road, a parochial road, a council responsibility. No, what I have to say to them and those who want to subscribe to that rubbish is that nothing can go so. You're a member of parliament for the constituency. You have been allocated resources to fix the constituency.
I was.
You choose which government agency you want to be the
Mm,
executing agency. So if it is a parochial road, you just need to make the resources available to the local authorities to fix them.
right.
Or him just use NWA, which is what he has been doing.
Mm-hmm.
No, if everything is for you not to touch, then you have certainly explained yourself to be completely redundant. And
Mm-hmm.
it's time for you to go.
Quite so. Um, I think moving forward, I think the PMP should have like a education, a political education of how things actually work from the central government to the local level, because these types of excuses that is coming from these people is because they know that we are ignorant to the ins and outs of how things operate. Why they can actually say
I, I
stuff like that.
I don't think they believe we're ignorant, because they certainly know that we are not.
When I say
What they
we,
are
I
trying to do.
mean regular people like me that has not really followed up politics.
Oh, so when you say the education, I mean is for
Yeah,
the public.
yes, for the public,
Okay.
educate us as to how it works, how things operate. So, you would get money from central government, and then the MP would allocate these funds to these agencies and whatever. Like, we need to know these things. It needs to be. I think we need to go as far as to make it a mandatory thing in schools, where you are
Yes.
taught political science from a very very young age, because for
Our
far too
governance,
long,
really.
yeah, our governance, because for far too long they have played on the ignorance of the population.
I think I think that was the case. And I'll
Mm-hmm.
tell you why. Because
Mm-hmm.
certainly in one of our community meetings, he made attempts to utilize this excuse. And the person was saying, but based on convention, this is not true. Because you're saying it's a local authority road, yet still reach a patch the road. So is it local authority when we want it to fix and you can't fix it? And it becomes no a central government project whenever you can fix it. No, the people have removed the veils from their eyes and they have seen this government for who they are. They are just PR government, and the PR just not impressing us anymore. It is now time for us to have real working people with the interest of the government, of the country at hand, who can move this country progressively to the first world standard that we know we can be.
I mean, when I look at this government, um they are doing so much to for where PR is concerned. I would think that after 9 years, your work would speak for itself. But it's like, it's funny. It's like they are trying to play catch up to you guys, and you guys have never been in government. It's weird. It's weird. It's weird. But I really want to thank you, Mr. Kenord Grant, for your time. Again, everybody, I'm sorry that I was late. You get me? Is there anything that you want to leave with the people? The floor is yours.
All right. So pretty much all I want to say to the people is that let us not be impressed by the gimmicks of politics anymore. This election is a very serious time, and we certainly recognize that time come for we take politics serious. Time come for we take the whole mission of transforming Jamaica to a first world country serious, and time come for us to give the right team the jersey for going at the playing field of this international space and do the work so that we can be proud of ourselves as a nation.
All right. Thank you so much. Well said. Well said. And again, thank you for your time, my brother. All right.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Respect.
Respect.
Yes, sir. Boy, Portmore. Portmore. You guys are spoiled with proper representation, I can tell you. That's the second councillor that I've spoken to. And you have to be able to read the room and read people. And from the first brother that I spoke to, forgive me, his name is slipping right now. Don't take that for anything. But his interview and his personality, it stuck with me, and this brother is no different, Mr. Kenord Grant. So you guys are spoiled with proper representation. In the next general election coming up in a couple months, whether they call it or the government is dissolved. Hey, either way, stay ready. Don't get ready. All right, and make sure that you guys go out in full. And I want you guys to go out early to vote. You understand? I'm talking from 10 o'clock. Everybody's supposed to done vote already. To only go out early to vote. And by 2 or 3 in the evening, 4 in the evening, we can call it everywhere in Jamaica. Alright? Early voting, people. No sleeping, no slumber. So later on in the night, who want to go party, them can go party at headquarters, don't it? So yeah, I want to encourage you guys to go out early and vote. And again, I want to say big up to the Right Honorable Sir Dr. Alfred Dawes and his team of councillors here in Portmore. You understand? The word is love. Alright? Yeah.